Chapter 1. Frozen Shadows of Krithia. The unforgiving wind roared across the endless plains of ice and snow, a symphony of harsh whispers and biting gusts that tore mercilessly at the scant protection Celera could muster around her frail body. The landscape of Krithia was a cruel mistress, merciless, frozen, and relentless. Vast fields of glacial ice stretched into the horizon, broken only by jagged mountain spires that pierced the thick gray sky like the broken ribs of some ancient beast. The pale light of the distant binary stars barely filtered through the swirling clouds, casting a bleak, bluish tint over everything, draining color from the world like a slow poison. The very atmosphere seemed to conspire against her. Each breath came sharp and painful, turning instantly to frost as it left her lips. Her lungs burned with the effort, while her skin, despite layered armor and thermal shields, felt as if it were freezing from within, every nerve ending screaming in protest at the merciless cold. Yet, what truly threatened to end her was not just the brutal elements, but the crushing weight of abandonment and despair that gnawed relentlessly at her mind. Celera stumbled forward, her limbs trembling, her body heavy with exhaustion. She had been wandering for days after the ambush, her squad destroyed in the surprise assault of the Rizan mercenaries traders in the eyes of the Dravari Dominion, and now her executioners in exile. Cast out and left for dead, she was a forgotten soldier, bleeding and broken on a world where death came not with violence, but with silence, the silence of the endless freeze. Her boots cracked against brittle ice, a hollow, echoing sound in the vast emptiness, as if the planet itself mourned her plight. She was alone in a realm where survival was a legend told by the old hunters to frighten their children, where the very air conspired to steal life away, molecule by molecule. Celera's thoughts wandered to the propaganda she had grown up hearing, how humans, weak and fragile, would never last in the hostile reaches of space, how their bodies were ill-suited to endure hardship, and how their fragile psyches would break in the face of true adversity. But in her bleak reality, it was her own people's cruelty that had abandoned her here, and her own body that betrayed her will to live. The cold was a living thing, a creeping, insidious force that reached beneath her armor and gnawed at her bones. Her fingers, once deft and strong, had become clumsy, numb, and useless. Her breath came in ragged gasps as frostbite claimed her toes and ears, her vision blurring at the edges as hypothermia tightened its icy grip. The black ice underfoot was treacherous, threatening to swallow her whole if she stumbled. Still, she pushed on, driven by a flicker of stubborn hope that somewhere beyond the icy wasteland there might be salvation. But the truth was more brutal. Every passing hour, the frost won another battle against her fragile flesh. Every shiver sapped away the warmth of life itself. She knew, deep in the recesses of her mind, that if she did not find warmth soon, the cold would finish what betrayal had begun. Celera collapsed beside a snowdrift, her body convulsing with uncontrollable shudders, and for a fleeting moment, she surrendered to the paralysis of despair. The shadows of her ancestors, the proud Dravari who had conquered worlds with honor, seemed distant and hollow here. She thought this cold, this merciless, suffocating cold, would be her death. But fate, as cruel and unpredictable as the frozen winds, had other plans. Through the swirling storm and white haze, a distant glow appeared, a warm flicker of light, fragile and alive against the oppressive blue-gray world. It was subtle at first, a faint ember that danced on the edge of her failing vision. Yet, it grew steadily, like a heartbeat in the vast stillness. Celera's heart, so close to silence, stirred with cautious curiosity. Who, or what, could dare defy the cold here? As the figure came closer, she could make out the silhouette of a human, a rarity in these parts, clad not in the usual battle armor of the Dominion, but in rugged, practical gear, worn and patched from long journeys. His movements were deliberate and sure, each step confident despite the harsh environment, as if he was not a visitor but a child of the cold itself. His breath formed small clouds in the frosty air, and his eyes shone with an almost otherworldly warmth. There was no fear in his gaze, only a calm determination that was foreign and yet strangely comforting to Celera. The human knelt beside her without hesitation, the warmth radiating from his hands like a small sun amidst the frost. His fingers moved quickly but gently, stripping away the damaged outer layers of her armor with a precision born of experience, revealing pale skin cracked and stained with ice. Celera, weak and barely conscious, felt the strange sensation of heat against her frozen flesh for the first time in what felt like an eternity. The pain was sharp but alive, a promise that she still existed, that her heart still beat beneath the cold crust of despair. The human's voice was low and steady, a soothing balm against the relentless howling outside. "Hold on," he said simply, his accent unfamiliar, but his intent unmistakable. He produced a small device, a compact, portable heater, and activated it. A golden flame blossomed within a tiny, contained chamber, casting dancing shadows on the swirling snowflakes. This was no ordinary fire. It was a miracle of human ingenuity, a defiant beacon in a world designed to snuff out life. As the warmth began to seep into her limbs, Celera's memories flooded back: the betrayal of her comrades, the merciless mercenaries hunting her, the bitter lessons about the fragility of life and the strength hidden in unexpected places. She looked up at the human with eyes wide in disbelief. Could this fragile creature, with his simple fire, really save her from the cold that had claimed so many others before? The human smiled faintly, as if reading her thoughts, and extended a hand not just to help her rise, but as a symbol of hope, of an unspoken promise that even in the darkest, coldest corners of the galaxy, life could be rekindled. Celera took that hand, gripping it with the last of her strength, and felt, for the first time since the fall of her squad, a flicker of warmth and courage ignite deep within her soul. The human's name was Jack, a scavenger and wanderer far from Earth, drawn to the outer colonies by rumors of lost technology and hidden secrets. But in this frozen hellscape, he found something far greater, a chance to prove that humanity's resilience was more than myth, that a single spark could defy the cold, and that sometimes salvation came not in weapons or warships, but in the simple act of lighting a fire in the darkness. Together, they would face the brutal wilderness of Krithia, bound by fate, and the fragile flame of hope that refused to die. Jack wasted no time, knowing the cold was a cruel adversary that would not wait. He tore strips from his own thick, insulated jacket and wrapped them gently but firmly around Celera's frostbitten limbs. His hands moved methodically, pressing warmth against her pale skin, urging the frozen blood to flow once more. The small heater's flame crackled quietly between them, a defiant glow that pushed back the surrounding darkness. For a moment, the bitter howl of the wind faded into the background, replaced by the quiet symphony of survival, the rhythm of Celera's uneven breath, the gentle hum of the heater, and the soft, reassuring murmur of Jack's voice telling her stories of warmer suns and safer worlds. Her body trembled violently, a mixture of cold and the sudden rush of heat, both painful and vital. Yet in that fragile moment, as the ice slowly retreated from her fingers and toes, Celera felt something unfamiliar: trust. Not in the gods of her people or the dominion she once served, but in this human stranger who had chosen to light a fire in the heart of her frozen despair. Slowly, she opened her eyes, clearer now, and met Jack's steady gaze. His face was rugged, framed by unkempt hair dusted with frost, eyes that burned with a fierce kindness. "You're not alone," he said softly. "I won't let the cold take you." Those words, simple and unadorned, struck deeper than any weapon. They were a lifeline, pulling her back from the edge of oblivion. As warmth returned to her body, Celera forced herself to sit up, leaning heavily on the human's strong arm. The pain was sharp, but it was proof she was still alive. With Jack's help, she made her way to a small cavern mouth nestled among frost-encrusted rocks, a shelter from the unrelenting storm. Inside, the flickering fire grew stronger, its glow reflected in the crystalline walls of ice, casting ethereal patterns that danced like spirits. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, Celera allowed herself to rest, to feel the embers of life rekindling within her battered soul. Jack tended to her wounds with practiced care, using a medkit salvaged from his travels: antiseptics, healing gels, and stimulants that pulsed with advanced human bioengineering. Celera marveled at the strange mix of primitive warmth and high-tech medicine, a contradiction that embodied the very essence of humanity's unpredictable nature. Outside, the storm raged on, but inside the cavern, hope blossomed like a fragile flower against the frost. As dawn's pale light began to creep over the horizon, Solara's body had recovered enough strength for her to speak, and with a voice raw but determined, she asked, "Why did you come? What drives a human to wander a place like this?" Jack smiled, a mixture of sadness and fierce resolve flickering in his eyes. "Because out here," he said, "there's something worth fighting for, a chance to prove that we're more than what they say. That even in the coldest, darkest places, a human's fire never truly dies." Chapter 2. Fires of Reckoning. The days that followed were a test of endurance and willpower as Solara and Jack navigated the treacherous terrain of Crithia's frozen wastes. The cold still bit viciously, but the fire Jack had ignited within her and around her became a shield against the brutal elements and the shadows that lurked beyond the snowdrifts. Solara's body healed under his vigilant care, but more importantly, her spirit rekindled. She began to see the world through new eyes, not as a forsaken Dravari scout doomed to die forgotten, but as a warrior reborn alongside this human who defied every expectation. Jack's knowledge of the land was impressive. Despite his outsider status, he moved with the confidence of one who had survived countless dangers. He shared stories of Earth, a world of endless forests and roaring seas, where fires burned bright against the night and humanity's stubborn heart refused to yield to extinction. His words painted pictures of warmth and light, of fierce communities bound by hope and sacrifice, concepts foreign yet strangely inspiring to Solara. Together, they scavenged the frozen ruins of ancient alien outposts, remnants of civilizations long lost to time and ice. Jack was fascinated by the technology left behind, half-buried relics pulsing with dormant power, encrypted secrets waiting for a mind capable of unlocking them. Solara, with her military training and intimate knowledge of Dominion tactics, provided invaluable insights into the mercenary threat still hunting her, the same mercenaries who had betrayed and cast her out. Their alliance became a balance of raw human ingenuity and seasoned Dravari combat instinct. Yet even as they forged this fragile partnership, the dangers multiplied. The mercenaries were relentless, stalking the icy wastes in search of the last living witness to their treachery. At night, Solara's nightmares returned, visions of her fallen comrades and the burning ruins of their ambushed camp. She feared she would never escape the ghosts of her past, but Jack's unwavering presence grounded her, a constant flame against the encroaching darkness. One night, as the twin moons of Crythia hung low and cold overhead, the distant howls of the mercenary hunters echoed across the valley. Solara gripped her weapon tightly, the cold metal a familiar comfort, while Jack prepared his makeshift defenses, igniting torches that flared like beacons in the frozen night. The fire was no longer just a means of survival. It was their weapon, a symbol of defiance. As the mercenaries closed in, the first clash of steel and plasma shattered the stillness, and Solara fought with the ferocity of a woman who had touched death and refused to yield. Beside her, Jack wielded tools and traps, his unorthodox tactics surprising their foes. Through the swirling snow and crackling flames, a bond forged in fire and ice blazed between them, one that neither cold nor treachery could extinguish. The mercenaries came like shadows unleashed by the frozen night, their silhouettes barely visible through the swirling snow, but the fires that Solara and Jack had kindled blazed defiantly against the darkness. The flickering light warped and twisted against the icy cliffs, casting long, jagged shadows that played tricks on the eyes. Solara's heart pounded in rhythm with the battle drums of clashing steel and the sharp staccato bursts of plasma fire, her body moving with a deadly grace born of desperation and hardened training. Every strike was precise, every dodge calculated, her limbs fueled by adrenaline and a refusal to surrender to the cold or to her enemies. Jack fought with equal ferocity, wielding tools and traps scavenged from the alien ruins around them. His unconventional tactics baffled the mercenaries, setting off incendiary charges and activating ancient security drones that whirred to life, their laser eyes blazing. It was a chaotic dance of fire and ice, man and alien united against a common foe. Despite the danger, The battle revealed something deeper between Celera and Jack, a connection forged in the crucible of survival. Each glance shared amidst the smoke and flame carried unspoken understanding. They were no longer just allies but comrades bound by a will stronger than any cold or betrayal. As the mercenaries faltered and retreated into the storm, nursing wounds and shattered pride, Celera stood panting beside the flickering embers of their makeshift campfire. The pain in her muscles was a reminder of life itself, and the warmth of the fire seemed to pulse through her veins, rekindling not just her body but her spirit. Jack approached silently, his eyes reflecting the flames. "You fought like a legend tonight," he said quietly, voice rough but sincere. Celera smiled faintly, the weight of her past lifting just enough to allow a flicker of hope to take root. "I fight because I must," she replied. "But I never imagined I would find a reason to keep living beyond mere survival." In the following days, they pressed deeper into the frozen wasteland, driven by a shared purpose: to uncover the truth behind the mercenary betrayal and the ancient secrets buried beneath Crithia's ice. The planet's surface was a graveyard of lost technology and forgotten histories, and Jack's expertise as a scavenger complemented Celera's tactical mind perfectly. They unearthed relics of a civilization that had harnessed fire and energy in ways that defied understanding, power cores pulsing with dormant strength, star charts etched into crystalline tablets, and strange, humming artifacts that seemed almost alive. Celera marveled at Jack's ingenuity in decoding these mysteries, his human curiosity and resilience shining through every discovery. Yet beneath the excitement of exploration lay a simmering tension. The mercenaries were never far behind, their presence a constant threat that shadowed every step. Celera's nights were haunted by visions of betrayal, but the fire they nurtured between them burned steadily, warding off despair. One evening, as the twin moons rose high, casting cold silver light over the landscape, Celera and Jack sat beside the fire in a rare moment of calm. The warmth surrounded them like a fragile shield against the biting cold, and the silence between them was comfortable, filled with unspoken promises and shared determination. Jack broke the quiet, his voice soft but resolute. "This fire we've kindled, it's more than just heat. It's a reminder that no matter how cold the universe gets, there's always light to be found. And together, we're going to find it." Celera nodded, feeling the truth of his words seep into her bones. The cold that had threatened to kill her was no longer the end, but the beginning of a journey, one where fire, friendship, and fierce courage would forge a path through the frozen shadows of Crithia and beyond. As days melted into nights on the frozen expanse of Crithia, Celera and Jack found themselves bound not just by circumstance, but by a burgeoning respect and unspoken understanding. Each morning was a battle against the relentless cold and the gnawing fear of the mercenaries who hunted them like shadows in the snow. Their journey led them toward the ruins of an ancient facility, half swallowed by ice and time, a place rumored to hold secrets that could shift the balance of power in the galaxy. Jack's eyes sparkled with a mixture of awe and determination as they uncovered massive doors carved with alien glyphs, frost glistening on the intricate patterns. To Celera, this was more than a discovery, it was a chance at redemption, a chance to unravel the betrayal that had shattered her life, and maybe, just maybe, to strike back at those who had abandoned her. Inside the cavernous structure, the air was stale and cold, but the faint hum of dormant machinery stirred a flicker of life within the darkness. The walls pulsed with faint blue light, and holographic displays flickered erratically, hinting at the advanced technology once wielded by a civilization long lost to history. Jack and Celera worked side by side, deciphering alien symbols and bypassing security protocols with a blend of human ingenuity and Dravari combat savvy. Yet amid the technological marvels, unease crept in. The mercenaries were closing in, their presence sensed by the faint vibrations and distant echoes in the ice. Every moment spent in the ruins was a gamble, a race against time and death. Suddenly, alarms blared through the ancient corridors, a harsh cacophony that shattered the fragile silence. The mercenaries had found them. Celera's pulse quickened, her fingers tightening around her weapon as she exchanged a determined glance with Jack. "We're not giving up," she vowed, her voice cold but fierce. Jack nodded, igniting a series of traps and barriers within the complex, the flames and energy pulses illuminating the shadowy hallways. Together, they fought through waves of attackers, their combined strength a testament to survival against impossible odds. As the last mercenary fell and silence reclaimed the ruins, Celera felt a surge of triumph and resolve. They had survived, but the secrets they uncovered were just the beginning. The fire they had kindled would soon ignite a rebellion. Chapter 3: The Blaze of Awakening. Emerging from the icy tomb of the ancient ruins, Celera and Jack were transformed not just by battle, but by revelation. The artifacts they retrieved pulsed with untapped power, promising a future where the cold grip of betrayal could be shattered by the warmth of alliance. Celera's wounds had healed, but more importantly, the cold that once threatened to end her life was now a memory overshadowed by the fire burning fiercely within her heart. The human beside her was no longer just a stranger, but a symbol of hope and strength that transcended the boundaries of species and prejudice. Together, they set their sights on the horizon, a galaxy full of shadows and light, where their fight was far from over, but where the flame of courage refused to be extinguished. The thawing warmth that now coursed through Celera's veins was more than just physical. It was the rekindling of a spirit long thought broken, ignited by the presence of a human whose fire defied the cold universe around them. As they trekked onward through Krithio's shifting tundra, the alien snow beneath their feet seemed less a barrier and more a testament to the hardships they had overcome. The once imposing wilderness now bore the marks of their passage. Smoldering campsites where Jack's engineered fires pushed back the night, makeshift barricades forged from shards of ice and scavenged metal, and above all, the shared determination etched deep into their souls. Celera's mind churned with memories not only of betrayal and loss, but also of this newfound alliance, a fragile yet fierce bond that transcended the boundaries of their disparate worlds. She found herself questioning everything she had believed about humanity, recognizing in Jack a resilience and ingenuity that no Dravari drill instructor had ever taught her. Jack, for his part, was equally transformed. The cold, harsh frontier of Krithia was no longer just a place to scavenge forgotten relics, but a crucible that revealed the depth of his own courage and compassion. His past, filled with solitary journeys and survivalist pragmatism, now felt intertwined with Celera's destiny, forging a partnership that pulsed with purpose. He taught her the subtle art of lighting a fire not just to keep warm, but to inspire courage to become a beacon for others lost in the frozen shadows. They shared tales of Earth's endless forests and roaring bonfires, of communities who gathered around flickering flames to sing, to tell stories, and to remember. These stories, told beneath alien stars, stitched a new tapestry of hope between them. Celera realized that it was not just the fire that kept her alive, it was the warmth of connection, of trust, and the unwavering defiance of a human who refused to let her perish in the cold. Their mission grew clearer with every step, to uncover the full extent of the mercenary conspiracy that had fractured the Dominion, and to expose the dark undercurrents that threatened to consume entire star systems. The relics from the ancient ruins were pieces of a puzzle, fragments of forgotten technology that could shift the tides of war and restore balance. But as they delved deeper, they discovered that the mercenaries were only pawns in a far more sinister game, one that stretched beyond Krithia into the heart of galactic politics and shadowed betrayals. The fire they had lit was no longer just a means of survival. It was a call to arms, a blazing declaration that neither cold nor treachery would snuff out the spark of rebellion. Together, Celera and Jack stood at the edge of a new dawn, ready to fight not just for themselves, but for the hope of all who lived beneath the cold stars. The horizon stretched out before them, a cold, jagged line where ice met sky, but inside Celera, a new fire burned brighter than any star. Every step away from the ruins was a step toward reclaiming what was lost not just for herself, but for the countless souls crushed beneath the mercenaries' boothiel. She felt the weight of her past fading, replaced by an unyielding resolve forged in the harsh crucible of Krithio's ice. Jack's presence beside her was a steady flame, a reminder that even in the coldest reaches of the galaxy, warmth and hope endured. Together, they devised plans not just for survival, but for rebellion. The relics they carried hummed softly, secrets waiting to be unlocked, and possibilities stretching as far as the stars themselves. Their journey was no longer solitary, but purposeful. Each night, they shared their hopes, fears, and dreams beneath the flickering light of their fire, the cold receding before their united will. Solara's combat skills sharpened, fueled by Jack's unconventional tactics and her growing understanding of human resilience. Jack, in turn, learned from Solara the discipline and honor of a warrior forged in the crucible of betrayal. They were an unlikely pair, alien and human, fire and ice, but in their union lay a power neither had expected. The mercenaries remained a looming threat, stalking their every move like hungry wolves, but the flames of their alliance blazed too fiercely to be easily extinguished. As they pressed toward the heart of the mercenary stronghold, whispers of revolt spread among the scattered factions oppressed by the Dominion's shadow. Solara and Jack became symbols, living proof that even in the deepest cold, a single spark could ignite a blaze of awakening. Their fire was not just warmth against the frost, but a call to those who had suffered in silence, a beacon to rally behind. The battle ahead would be fierce, but with fire in their hearts and the relics of ancient power at their command, they were ready to face the storm. The cold might try to kill them, but together, they would burn brighter than any darkness. Chapter 4: Ember of a New Dawn. The final confrontation was inevitable, a tempest of ice and flame that would decide the fate of Krithia and echo across the stars. Solara and Jack stood on the precipice of that battle, their bodies weary but their spirits unbroken. The fire that had saved Solara from death had become a raging inferno, consuming doubt and fear, transforming her into a beacon of hope for the oppressed. Jack's ingenuity and unwavering courage were the tinder that kept that fire alive, a reminder that humanity's strength was not just in muscle or technology, but in heart and will. As the mercenary forces amassed beneath the swirling storm clouds, Solara's gaze met Jack's silent promises exchanged, a pact forged in hardship and determination. The cold wind howled, but the flames they carried would not be extinguished. Together, they would rise, not as victims of a merciless universe, but as champions of a new dawn, one where fire would chase away the shadows and light the way to freedom. The air was thick with frost and tension as the final battle loomed over the frozen plains of Krithia. The mercenary forces gathered like a ravenous storm, dark shapes against the pale snow, their weapons gleaming with cold menace. Yet, Solara and Jack stood undeterred, the fire in their eyes burning brighter than any cold could diminish. Around them, the relics they had uncovered hummed with latent power, their mysterious energies a promise of hope and salvation. Solara felt the weight of everything that had led to this moment: the betrayal, the despair, the struggle for survival, and with it, a fierce determination burned deep in her chest. This was not just a battle for life, but for justice, for redemption, for the future of a galaxy too long shrouded in darkness. Jack moved with a calm confidence born from years of hardship and unwavering resolve. He had learned that survival was not just about strength or weapons, but about adapting, about igniting sparks where none seemed possible. Together, they marshaled allies from scattered factions oppressed by the mercenaries, warriors who had once hidden in shadows, but now rallied around the blazing symbol of hope Solara had become. The fire they carried was no longer just a physical flame. It was a beacon to the lost and forgotten, a call to rise against the cold tyranny that had gripped their worlds. The wind bit sharply, but around their campfires, warmth radiated in every whispered plan and every shared glance of solidarity. As the mercenaries charged, the frozen ground trembled beneath the clash of battle. Solara fought like the embodiment of fire itself, unyielding, consuming, transforming the cold despair into fierce courage. Her blades danced with deadly precision, her every strike fueled by the pain of betrayal and the burning promise of freedom. Jack deployed ingenious devices, igniting flames and traps that turned the battlefield into a fiery labyrinth, forcing the mercenaries into disarray. The relics pulsed, releasing bursts of energy that shattered ice and disrupted enemy lines, their ancient power awakened by the will of those who refused to be broken. In the heart of the storm, amidst flames and fury, Celera and Jack moved as one, a fusion of strength and spirit, fire and resolve. When the final embers of battle settled, the mercenaries lay defeated, their dark ambitions shattered beneath the blaze of rebellion. The cold that had threatened to consume Celera was vanquished, replaced by a warmth that radiated far beyond her own body, an ember of a new dawn that promised change. Standing amidst the flickering fires, Celera looked to the horizon, the pale light of dawn breaking through the swirling clouds. Jack stood beside her, the first rays of sunlight catching in his eyes, reflecting the hope they had forged together. "The cold thought it could kill you," Jack said softly, "but fire always finds a way." Celera smiled, the warmth in her heart brighter than any flame. "And sometimes," she replied, "all it takes is one human to light it." The story of Krithia would be told for generations not as a tale of frozen death, but as a legend of fire, resilience, and the unbreakable bond between two souls who defied the cold and sparked a revolution. Together, Celera and Jack had proven that even in the darkest, coldest corners of the galaxy, the human spirit could ignite a fire that would never be extinguished. The battle's roar finally faded into a haunting silence that seemed to swallow the frozen wasteland whole. Yet, within that silence burned a new kind of fire, not just in the camps of the victorious, but in the hearts of every soul who had witnessed the impossible, an alliance forged in ice and flame, between a fallen Dravari scout and a relentless human wanderer. Celera stood atop a ridge overlooking the quiet battlefield, her gaze piercing the pale light of dawn as the first golden rays pierced through the lingering frost clouds. The cold no longer held dominion here. It had been pushed back, diminished by the flames of courage, hope, and unyielding will. Jack stood beside her, his breath forming clouds in the chill morning air, eyes shining with the quiet triumph of one who had battled the void and emerged victorious. Together, they surveyed the landscape, not just a battlefield, but a new beginning. The relics of ancient civilizations, once dormant beneath layers of ice and time, were now awakened by their hands. These relics held the key to rebuilding, to shaping a future free from the shadows of betrayal and mercenary greed. But beyond technology, what truly remained was the bond forged between them, proof that life, in its most fragile and fierce forms, could overcome even the harshest elements. Celera, once a broken exile, now felt whole again, her spirit rekindled by the warmth of Jack's fire and the unbreakable alliance they had formed. The cold that had threatened to kill her was now a memory, a shadow behind the blazing light of a new dawn. As news of their victory and the secrets uncovered spread through the scattered worlds, hope ignited across the galaxy. Oppressed factions and weary souls took up the flame, inspired by the story of survival and defiance that transcended species and history. Celera and Jack became legends not just for their strength or skill, but for the fire they kindled together, a blaze that promised freedom and unity in a fractured cosmos. And though the cold of Krithia remained fierce beyond their reach, it could no longer snuff out the enduring human spirit or the fierce heart of a warrior reborn. As they prepared to journey onward, their paths forever intertwined, Celera looked to Jack with a smile full of promise. "Whatever darkness lies ahead," she said, "we'll face it together with fire." Jack nodded, lighting a small flame between his hands, the warmth spreading through the cold morning air. "Together," he agreed, "because in the end, it's the fire inside us that defines who we are." And so, under alien stars and burning suns, a human and an alien forged a legacy, a testament that even in the coldest reaches of space, the spark of hope and courage could never be extinguished.